What's up, everyone? It's America Plus. I'm your host, Cole McCormick. It's another week, another episode. What's going on, people? Happy to be here. Folks, we got a special one for you. We have a wonderful conversation today on America Plus. That's why it's a longer episode. It's a different structure. We're doing some different things. First off, we're celebrating. So just thank you for being here. I'm celebrating you. Celebrating last week, it was a sat slinger. You were getting 900 Satoshis. What's up, sat slinger? I love doing the sat slingers. It's always when I do the promotion. It's when I try to connect with more people, try to get more people in on the vibe of innovating, dude. Trying to innovate our systems. Just trying to do better. What I want to do first is just to give you a quick rundown. So I'm going to be going through the boosts like right now, like in this first section. And then it's going to be just some value for value stuff, just talking about the community. And then the rest of it is going to be, it's about an hour and 20-minute conversation between me and my friend Andrew. I'll give you a bit more on Andrew later. But first, folks, America Plus. Welcome to America Plus. I just want to shout out the people who wanted to support me last week. We're headed on into the boosts. If you didn't know this, America Plus is a value for value show. That means that this is fully listener supported. So if you're listening to this right now, you have the opportunity to show how much value this show gives you. These people who donated last week donated a number 72 Satslinger storyboard meeting. Last week I went through all the storyboards for my animated movie that's going to be coming out on Christmas Day 2023. My animated short film called Magic Mushroom Fun Time. I'm putting my heart and soul into it, and God is going to show up, and it's going to be amazing, and it's something that I must create. I know this. It's something that I must create. So that's what I was expressing. Go back to that episode. Check out the chapters and the images. You see all the storyboards. And the first person who wanted to support was at Mere Mortals. What up, my boy? From Down Under, my friend Kyron Down. I'm so happy, dude. I'm so happy you wanted to support me on this one. He sends in a satchel of Richards, 1,111 sats. He says, send you a link about the sound stuff. Being wary and critical of politicians is a healthy mindset. I stay away from all that BS. There's nothing to be gained from putting any of my attention in that direction. Yeah, okay, first of all, Kyron, A, thank you for the email. Thank you for the sound tips. I'm fixing them. B, last week I was talking about Bitcoin from JFK Jr., or I'm sorry, RFK Jr., who's running for president here in the United States. And I don't care. I simply do not care about, like, I barely care about his presidency, about his candidacy. And I really don't care about his position on Bitcoin. I'm happy that he likes Bitcoin, but I don't know why why should Bitcoin be a lever for why I should vote for somebody in a system that's already been corrupt, in a system that's literally murdered this man's family. So, like, I appreciate the Bitcoin, but I just don't care about the politician. So, Kyron and I vibe on that, man. So, Kyron, thanks for that tidbit, man. Like, I think your government sucks too. I think all of our governments suck. The next one is from at Canda Smile. She gives us 111. Oh, wait, hang on. For Kyron.
Boost me, bitch.
Thank you, Kyron. Was that too loud? Hang on.
Boost me, bitch.
There we go. Good. At Candace Smile, boosted 111 sats from Canada, but enjoy your pod. Hey, thank you.
And now, as the French say, it is time for le boost.
From our boy Onomatopoeia with the Star Wars profile pic. I love this guy. He sends in 500 Satoshis. He says, boost for the asymmetrical art. 3 flame emoji.
Boostar.
Yes, sir. The asymmetrical art. I just love doing that art. I like the way it vibes. I love, if you're talking about the way Shannon draws the hand-drawn stuff, I love the way she draws. If you're talking about any of the other images, they're most likely AI or just like normal photos. So anyway, thank you. And then we got two more from both are from our very good friend at Joel W. He sends in 1,111 sats. He says, speaking of shrooms, you should check out the book Psychedelic Gospels. It's an alt view that, in my opinion, has some merit of biblical events being the result of some people involved consuming hallucinogens, and that very early Christianity, before any institutional structuring took place, was actually a mushroom cult, for lack of a better term. Wow. Dude.
It's basically, you put Bitcoin with anything, and all of a sudden, that is more efficient.
Yeah, dude, mushrooms and Christianity go way back. I haven't read the exact book, Joel. What is it called? Psychedelic Gospels. I have not read that book, but I have read the book. Who's this guy? Let me open up my Audible real quick. This book is called The Immortality Key. And this author goes through something very, very similar. He actually has access in the Vatican archives, and he's actually able to physically look at these paintings and these texts that reference like psychedelics and mushrooms. This guy's name is Brian C. Murarescu. Murarescu. The Immortality Key. Joel, I recommend that one to you. I will look up Psychedelic Gospels. I got a few credits on Audible. Thank you. And then the last one from Joel, another satchel of Richards, 1,111 sats. He says, story sounded good from the start, but Purple Man Chicken? Brilliant. I'm totally sold and can't wait to see this. Yes, dude.
Boost.
Joel, dude, you're going to be in for a wild ride, my guy. I want it to be good. I want it to be legit. I want you to feel good. I want you to feel inspired. I want you to see a new realm. I want you to see through the veil of a more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible. And then it's going to lead into my Star Wars shit. So we're going down, bro. We're going down, man. We're going up. We're going up. Rocket ship. Rocket ship. Thank you for all those people, folks. Thank you for the value for value. I try to do my best to put as much value as I can into this. I want to give you information and stories and practical tools that we can use to build our systems. I'm trying to build my own creative system. I'm trying to build my own like financial system with Bitcoin. I'm trying to be autonomous of my life. And with that, I need to learn skills. I need to learn technology. I need to continue to connect with people. And a part of that is also just knowing the type of story I want to tell. And in this conversation you're about to hear, I'm speaking with my friend Andrew Brown. I've known him for a few years. Him and I, we met at Warner Brothers. We were both tour guides there. And it was there where me, him, and my friend Ben, who was on long-ass time ago, for like a few months ago, the three of us, we started doing this little Instagram show we called the 60-Second Talk Show. And we did that for about a year straight, just doing weekly episodes. And it was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. And so that's how I knew Andrew. And we talk about the short film that he made during COVID, during 2020. It's a fun short film. It's a comedy. It's called A Night Out. My girlfriend Shannon acted in it. So Shannon was just killing it this year. Like in 2020, she did a bunch of filming, and then like 3 years passed by and nothing really happens. And now all of a sudden, these films that she was in, that she acted in, are now being released. So I'm happy for Shan. And it's a fun little short film. It's like 10 or 15 minutes long, and we go through the whole process of the writing and the making of and his perspective and what he was trying to accomplish. You really get a good sense of who Andrew is. You can really understand why he was a great tour guide. None of us are tour guides now, but you can just feel the nerdum running through us, okay? This man loves 1930s screwball comedies. I'm telling you, man. He's a good guy. A little disclaimer, while we were recording, there was slight like clicking and humming during like in the audio. So I've been going back and forth on this. I tried taking away like subtracting some sound. I tried adding some sound, trying to find like what the right balance is. I ended up just getting some royalty-free lo-fi music and setting that down really low. The lo-fi music sounds like it's like an older song, so hopefully these two things like mesh. So I'm just telling you up front, if you hear any like buzzing or things that sound like an old microphone, just pretend it's from the 1950s, okay? Because I want it to sound like an old audio thing. So that's just how it is. I spent like 5 hours editing the audio, and then I put my headphones on, and then I heard the buzzing, and I was like, shit. So that's just the situation, but I made sure to get like a very nice upbeat lo-fi. I'm not breaking any rules with it. Hopefully you're not annoyed by it. I know these boomers in podcasting 2.0, they hate the lo-fi music in the background. I don't mind it. Just relax. We're just going to hang out. We're talking movies, folks. We're talking movies. And yeah, just enjoy the ride. Ladies and gentlemen, director and writer Andrew Brown.
All right. Well, I can record whenever you're ready to start recording.
Okay, dope, dude. Yeah, start recording right now. I've been recording for the last few minutes,
Okay.
just keeping it loose. So
Okay, so we'll do like a nice little 3, 2, 1, and I'm recording now. And
perfect.
Okay.
Andrew, thank you for being here. So we were talking about colors, eras. Your short film, A Night Out, is it based in the 90s? When is it based on? What's the era?
I think that it still is a current film. I don't think that it's, I mean, if you look at the fashion of it, I mean, and the technology, I think there are cell phones in the movie. I didn't try to make it in a specific, hey, we're shooting a piece that takes place in 1995 or something. However, you know, we shot it digitally. I wish that I was a person of ample means and was able to fund filming on actual film or something like that. But we shot it digitally. Well, it would be a classic look. So we cheated on it and tried to. I wanted it to look like it was older, and so kind of color graded it and making it feel a little bit like it came from a film era. And it's interesting, you know, that was kind of one of my main things. I just love the look of film. And when it went to the festival, one of the girls there that wasn't in the film, she came up to me and asked me, did you shoot on film? So I was like, well, maybe we did something right. If somebody looks at that and thinks it was shot on film, then great, that's perfect. I mean, I don't look at it and say, gosh, this definitely was on film. I mean, I think it has a filmatic look to it, but I wanted it to feel a little bit of that era. So some of the typography and that kind of stuff still also feels kind of older, because it's a comedy. And I think right now, if you think about it, there aren't really that many comedy films being put out. Definitely not studio movies that are comedies. And if you go back to like the 80s and 90s, I mean, and you look at the release dates throughout every weekend, every Friday of every year, I would say you're going to find a comedy, a studio comedy, at least 2 a month.
When I heard that you were putting your movie in a festival, I couldn't be more happy for you, because out of all, like the whole summer of 2020, there's a slew of us that made different projects. There was like, it was my movie, your movie, Walter's movie, and then like a few other groups did their stuff, and like you were like the last one to release it, and I was like, yes, finally.
Yeah, I have a problem of taking my time. I don't know if that means it's perfect or not. I probably, if I went back and watched it again, I'd probably find more things I don't like. But you know, that's okay. I definitely take my time. But so I wanted it to kind of feel a little innocent, because now I think societally we are just so jaded and don't look at things and we don't want to laugh. So I just wanted the feel of it, the look of it to be kind of disarming, and feel like it's kind of a different era where we weren't as cynical, because that's all it is that I wasn't trying to cure cancer and I wasn't trying to make a statement. I just thought, this is a funny scenario, and I think that we need movies that we can laugh. I don't think there's anything wrong with a movie that's making a statement. I think those can be good, but I think that you need a balance. I think you need both of them. And in the old days, they used to say, one for us, one for them. The studios would say that we'll make a film that is topical and kind of a think piece, and that's ours, and we'll do one of those, and then we're going to do one for them, one for just the mass appeal, not trying to teach us anything, just something that's a popcorn movie.
I think it's fun. Like when I was watching it, I felt very cozy, first of all. Like the way you put together the images and the colors and the music too really brings it all together. That's what I found out when I made my short film. Like the music drives so much of the emotion, and that's why I was curious about the era, because it feels like 90s. It feels a bit older. It feels pre-digital, and it feels fun. It feels light, and it's definitely not a sitcom, because like there's no like laugh track or anything. But for some reason, just like being in a girl's apartment and they're getting ready for something, like that feels like sitcom-y, and you just love that scenario. Like you love like that friendship, like there's fun banter. That's so interesting that you wanted to go back to like, you just wanted something pure comedy. Would you say that's true? Just pure?
Yeah. You mentioned the 90s. It's funny. When I wrote the script and when we were shooting, I just kept saying, talk faster. I wanted it to be very fast. And that would be something. I really love the screwball comedies of the 1930s. So yes, I love some of those things from the 90s. Things like, Heavyweights from the mid-90s with Ben Stiller, a young Ben Stiller. That's a wonderful comedy film that I love. And it has some of that same, the music from that would be kind of similar to the music in our film. And we had a great score in it. But I really, really love things like, if you may have never seen it, but you should, Bringing Up Baby, a fantastic movie with Cary Grant. One of the great screwball comedies. If there's a movie that you should see that. I also, Preston Sturges is another one. Bringing Up Baby. It's in the Criterion Collection, so you have to watch it, right? But it's a fantastic movie. Bringing Up Baby, and that's one of those I saw when I was probably 6 or 7. This is one movie that my mom really liked. There's several in that era. Cary Grant made a few of them. The Awful Truth is another one. There is another one, My Man Godfrey. That was not Cary Grant. That's Carol Lombard, and I forget what the actor's name. Somebody who's listening would know and is probably yelling at me for not knowing. But that's a great one, because that's the mid-30s, and that was right in the middle of the Depression. All of these movies were, and that one especially talked about the sadness of many people during the Depression, because it was a sad time. People were basically dying in the street. They didn't have any food, and so they would go see these movies, and they were just very light and happy and very, very fast. The dialogue was just bang, 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 and it doesn't let up. Another one from that era, Preston Sturges, another great director. The Coen brothers. You know the Coen brothers, I assume, Cole.
I love them.
Yeah. So the Coen brothers, I believe one of their favorite filmmakers is Preston Sturges, and he was the 30s and 40s. He did several. Probably the most famous one is Sullivan's Travels. I think that was 1940 or 1941, but it's about a filmmaker who decides that he doesn't want to make the the comedies that he is associated with. He wants to make a serious piece about real men, but he doesn't know real men because he's just a Hollywood type who lives in a giant mansion with a big pool, and so he needs to go out and find what the common man are doing. So he leaves Hollywood and basically goes to the middle of the country and tries to find what the common man is doing, and that's the premise of the movie. The actress is Veronica Lake, who she was a very famous actress at that time. And that one, the movie that he is trying to make, you'll know the title. The film that the director in the movie Sullivan's Travels wants to make is called "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" which then the Coen brothers use that title for a film of their own, which has that same kind of thing, that very snappy, fast-paced dialogue, which I just love. I think that stuff is so good. So I'm really being long-winded here, Cole. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But,
it's okay. You can talk for however long you want. You can stop whenever you want. It's totally cool, dude.
Okay. Well, yeah, I should let you ask more questions instead of just babbling, But anyway, when we were shooting, I just kept saying, it's okay. You can talk fast, and if you don't talk faster, I'm going to cut some of this out anyway, so that it feels like we're just right on top of each other. That was the feel of it. Now, not every comedy can do that. I mean, sometimes you watch The Office. I mean, it's kind of the opposite. You need those spaces. You need that space to breathe.
Yeah, silence can be so funny. Silence can be one of the funniest moments in the entire movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But sometimes, just being able to be so fast that people are having to be like, wait, did I catch it? And then have four more things. And I think that can be really, I think that can be really genius. I'm not saying that what I did was genius by any stretch of the imagination, but I love that style. The Marx Brothers were the same way. I mean, the Marx Brothers would just bang, 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 throw so many things at you so fast. I can't imagine, if you go back, I would say Duck Soup is my favorite Marx Brothers movie. A Night at the Opera is also, that's probably a close second. The Marx Brothers, the genius of their work is that Groucho will sit there and say the funniest things. He has these brilliant one-liners, just one after another. And then, so he's doing this. He's giving you the verbal comedy. And then Harpo and Chico, they are going to give you the pratfalls. And they're going to do the physical comedy. So it does both of those things. And it balances it so well. When they would shoot their films, one of the ways that they were so ingenious is that they would take their show, they would do a live performance basically of the film on the road. They would go to theaters, stages, and they would perform a version of the film, of the routines in the film, so that they knew when the audience would laugh. So that then when they filmed it, they would know we need to pause here and pause here for the laughter so people don't miss the next jokes. That is ingenious, and it makes the films that much better because you don't miss anything.
Yeah, it's like, I love it when the movie's like theater. Like, it's sort of almost how sometimes Avengers, they have moments where people cheer and they go through the testing process for that movie, and they figure out like this moment feels like this moment with 3 Spider-Mans feels like people are going to cheer. So let's make sure there's a bit more of a like just blank stare right there.
Yeah, testing can be very important for sure.
How long did it take you to write this?
I probably wrote it in a day or two. I mean, it was only 15 pages maybe. So I wrote it wrote my first draft of it in a day or two. I just had to get it out, and then
so put us in the moment. Is this summer 2020 or is it like right into lockdowns? Like, when is this in 2020?
That's a great question. It's funny, you go back, I love watching the DVD commentaries, and there are these movies, and I've seen like Ghostbusters like 50 times, and the people on the commentary track will be like, I don't remember this part. I'm like, how do you not remember what, I'm like, but anyway, I say that to say, I don't remember exactly when it was. It was in 2020. I would say that we probably were in lockdown when I wrote it. it would make sense based on the subject matter of people trying to leave their house. Why I would write that. But yeah, when we did the film screening, they had a little Q&A, and the nice Q&A person, whatever you call those people, said, "Well, what was your process, and why did you write this? When did you write this?" And I said, "Oh, it was COVID," and I mean, that's a lie. I don't remember, but I think it was when we first locked down, and I was looking for something that, like, okay, what's a good scenario, and what's something that can be funny, and for me, I was thinking about, I have yet to write something without having somebody in mind. I'm giving a double negative. I always write something with somebody in mind. So I had people that I was thinking it would be funny if this person said this, or it would be funny if this person did this. And so that was kind of the process of that. I had in my head 3 or 4 people. I had 4, I guess there are 4 parts really. I had 4 people, and I said, okay, I think it would be funny if this person was doing this, and then et cetera, and that was kind of the process, and I just banged it out pretty quick, and then I sent it to the credited co-writer on the script, my Ben Thompson co-wrote. I sent it to him, and he took a second pass at it, which was helpful because he kind of punched out a few of the jokes. And sped it up a little bit, and really helped it be cohesive. And
That's
that was
so
kind
funny.
of the process.
That's so funny because I had him do the exact same thing with my script. That's funny that we both went to him.
Yeah. Maybe he has a future as a script doctor, I guess.
I mean, dude, yeah, I think he does, dude. Like, he's a good writer.
Yeah. No, excellent. I mean, the script came out very well. So, yeah.
So, with that process being handled, was that the first time you had, like, written a script, or, like, were you, like, was this the first time that you had actually, like, committed to doing a short film that you had written, or have you done this before?
No, I have. I have done a few. I did a couple. It's like I had a couple that I did in student festivals when I was in college. I did a short film with the 48-hour film festival where they give you a topic. This was a few years ago. They give you a topic. I can't remember exactly. They give you a topic or something, and then you have 48 hours to write a script and include this thing. And so you do it in 2 days. So I did that once. That was kind of interesting. I think this was the first one that I shot when we were in LA, when my wife and I were living in LA, I think. That's something that I had written, at least. I have a tendency to just write and then go back and write and go back. I'm not quite sure, as same with evidence on when I'm cutting it. I mean, I'll just sit there and cut on a little more until finally I said, okay, I'm done. So what ended up happening with that, what sped the process up, is I wrote the first pass, the first draft, gave it to Ben. Ben he wrote the second draft, or punched it up, however you look at it. And then we had a conversation where we kind of said, okay, I had a couple things. I was like, well, I want to keep this. And he said, well, this, and this. So we kind of put together on that, and we came up with what would be the final. And then I did what I tend to do a lot of times, and I was busy with other things. And Ben texted me and said, when are we going to do this? And I said, well, since the last time I talked to you 2 weeks ago, I think I'm going to be moving. So we have like 3 weeks.
So
What?
two
I forgot about
later,
that.
Yeah,
I forgot. Wow, I totally forgot we had to make this because you were moving. Wow, that's a deadline.
We'd lose the location.
Yeah, we filmed it in your
So
place.
yeah,
filmed it at our apartment that we were living in at the time. And we had a Friday and a Saturday that my lovely wife gave me those 2 days and said, you can shoot on those days and I won't bother you, and I'll just go by the pool and take some rays and won't get in your way, and then after that you'll have to get back to packing boxes.
Yeah, dude, you worked us, dude. That day, I remember filming with you, like, because I was doing, I think I might have been doing snacks and lights or something. I was doing something with the stunts.
You were jack of all trades.
I'm trying to, man. I remember working for 12 hours for you, unpaid. Why am I not striking?
Yeah. What was it really that long? Was it? I could. Somebody asked me that recently, and I really couldn't remember how long the days were.
The first day was long.
I mean, when you're going.
Yeah. I know they were long days. We had a lot of shots we had to get.
No, we worked super hard. That was like my first time, like really just like going for it. I was like, damn, like Andrew is a machine. He's really just pumping this out.
Well, the one thing is, and I lied to you just a second ago. It was not the first thing that I shot. I shot another short, maybe 6 months before that. I cut. It was a totally different, not a comedy. It was a science fiction horror short film, and I don't think I ever entered it in any festivals. I cut it and I thought, this is good. It's fine. But I don't think I ever entered it in some festivals. Maybe I should. But it was totally different. I mean, I do like to kind of not stay in the same lane. So man, I'm totally going off on the sidebar. But yeah, so that why did I think of that? You said something about oh, I know why. Yeah, cut all this out. Make me sound intelligent.
Don't worry about that, bro. I will. I got you, bro.
When you are directing, I think, at least this is just my opinion. I'm not an expert. I'm still trying to figure things out. But I think one of the most important things is that you have to be very aware of what you want. You can't waste any time. You need to know and be decisive on things. And even if you don't know, you have to somewhat fake it, and fake it by saying, well, I had a couple things, but what do you think? But it's good to get input from people, but you can't have everybody trying to run the asylum. So for me, I really like to try and prepare so that we're not wasting time. So I definitely keep my shot list.
I mean, that's brilliant.
And that can change.
That's the best move to take, bro, because only the best people, only the best movies are made by planning it out. Like it's pretty rare when you have a Martin Scorsese or a Steven Spielberg who can just like improvise a shot. They can just like figure it out, and then like their whole crew is all good. Like Chris Nolan plans out every shot.
I don't know about Scorsese. I know Spielberg storyboards everything very well. I mean, Hitchcock did the same. I mean, you definitely, I think, have to. I'm not a great artist. I would love to meet a wonderful storyboard artist who I could just dictate to. But I mean, I do my stick figures and kind of have an idea of, okay, this is this shot, and go through. I want to know. And so when we were shooting, I mean, I talked ahead of time, and I remember we had a couple Zoom calls. All the actors were on, and we kind of went through. And then I made sure our cinematographer was on those calls. I wanted to go through with her and make sure that we knew kind of shot-wise what I was kind of wanting to do. And of course, on the day, I mean, things can change. And some of the great stuff in there, especially with comedy, if you have funny people, it's gonna be improvised to some degree. I mean, people can change lines up. That's fine, as long as you give me one where it's as written. But I do think that having an idea, especially of where you want to put the camera, how you want certain shots to look. Are they going to be long takes? Are you going to have fast cuts? I mean, that kind of stuff, you have to know that ahead of time, or you're just going to be wasting time and it's not going to come out the way it's supposed to. If you can't figure out some way of getting some of the stuff that's in your head communicated to the people who are there, then it's just going to be a gobbledygook mess. It's not going to be anything. And if you don't know what's in your head and you don't have any idea, you might need to find somebody else to man the ship. I mean, like, you have to know something, or it's just not going to come out very good. So I really try my hardest, because I'm not by nature a detailed and 1, 2, 3 A plus B plus C plus D kind of person. So I have to train myself to do that, just so that it is regimented when you get on the day, so that you kind of know what your shots are going to be.
How are you feeling, like, during filming? Like, what was that like for you, like, in your head and emotionally? Were you ready? Like, did you feel like, are you usually confident when filming? Because a lot of times when I film, like, I am, like, sometimes I get, like, deathly nervous, and other times I'm, like, barely in my head. Like, I'm just, like, I feel like I'm, like, not even present. I go through, like, back and forth. Like, how are you during filming?
I mean, during filming, I don't. This is another thing. Somebody, when we did the Q&A at this festival, they asked, "Well, what was the worst thing that happened on?" I don't really remember a lot of specific feelings and things that happened on those days. I mean, I can remember having to make a lot of critical decisions. I mean, critical, not like nobody was having a heart attack and I had to give CPR or anything like that. But I mean, I don't remember feeling nervous, especially because I knew I had 2 days of filming. So we shot a good chunk on the first day, and I was able to go and actually look at the dailies. I mean, if it was a single day shoot, I think that would be more stressful, simply because if something is messed up, you can't go back. That's it. I mean, unless you call a literal reshoot and have to bring people back in. If you have it scheduled in to have another day, then you can always go back and fix something if you need to. I mean, you don't want to, but it is possible. If something just comes out totally wrong, you have all the actors coming back again. So I don't really remember feeling stressed. I mean, I think I was listening to a podcast with it was Jason Reitman. I don't remember who he was talking to. It was a podcast. Jason Reitman was on, being interviewed, and they asked him about when he was directing, different emotions that he feels, and he said, I've never looked at my assembly or my rough cut, my first blush at this thing that I've created. I've never looked at that first blush and not had the feeling, oh no, I'm a failure. I can't do anything. They're never going to hire me again. This is awful. And I can identify with that. I mean, I think when you look at all the footage, for me, when I look at all the footage, that's the time that I get the most nervous, because you think, okay, can I take this large gobbledygook of people talking and saying cut, and then another version of it, another angle? Can I put that all together, and is it going to cut together? That's when I'm nervous, because you think this isn't right, this is wrong. And now, of course, you just have to calm down and start cutting on it and whittling it away until it finally gets close to what you resemble in your head. But I don't ever remember, at least on this shoot, I don't remember being nervous. I shot a feature-length documentary. You have seen, right, Cole?
I believe you showed us most of it.
Yeah.
You showed.
the
You
football
did
one.
show us it. You did show us it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I shot a feature-length documentary called From Wreck to Rambling, and that I had some nerves on that simply because I went and I was interviewing people. They were taking their time, and some of these people were kind of well-known people, you know, and they are agreeing to let me come into their house or whatever, and I'm shooting them and asking them questions. That can be really nervous because you feel like it has to go right, because you're a fraud at that point if you have to call the person and say, hey, remember I told you I was this like professional filmmaker and you let me come into your house and be in my documentary, but oops, I left the lens cap on. Like, you don't want to do that because then you're a fraud. So that can be pretty daunting. And I had an experience one time when I was shooting that. I went and did an interview, and they had a lav mic, or, you know, a lapel mic, a mic that was, you know, put onto their collar. And I got rid of this microphone after this happened, but it was a wire, and it ran up the gentleman's shirt, and in his pocket he had the little pack, and the pack had a single like watch battery, not like a AA battery where you can clearly see the plus and minus. It was a little watch battery, and I was a dum-dum, and I put the watch battery in upside down. Well, you would think that if you put the watch battery in upside down, the microphone will not work, but that was not the case. It would work. It did work. It just put a ton of feedback into the mic, so I was getting a bar, like it looked like it was getting something. And I want to say maybe I had left my headphones, or I was not actually, I don't know. I did something wrong. Anyway, so I got the audio back, and it was just, you could hear it, and it sounded like it was, he was in like a airport with like, and it was awful. I mean, I thought I was going to vomit. It was terrible. And so, I was like, okay, can I fix it? And I spent some time working on the audio. Like, I sent it to a couple people. Do you think this is salvageable? Nowadays, I mean, I've heard about, there's AI generators that can repair unrepairable audio. So maybe now it would be fine. I don't know.
Hey man, the AI stuff works, dude. The AI stuff is real. Like, you can totally use AI to do your storyboards, like your vision with an artist and just dictating what you want. That's literally the AI. So you should definitely like dive into that.
Well, I didn't have that then, so I couldn't go back and get this audio. So I had to call the guy and say, hey, and what I don't remember what I said exactly. But I think it was something along the lines of, in your interview, and it was wonderful. You did a great job. This was perfect. It was everything that I wanted. You were phenomenal, but I didn't realize it. But the battery died in the middle of the audio, and so I'm missing a little bit. If I could just come back to your house just for a few minutes and just get that last couple questions. Now, that's not true. I had to get all of it, but I knew once I got him talking, it would be okay. So I had to go back with my tail between my legs and interview the guy again. But it actually worked out really well, because the gentleman, I took all the answers of that he gave, and I just cut it in. I said, this is all we're going to cover, you know, and so I'll ask you these questions and just give me some answers kind of like that. He's like, well, I can't say exactly what I said. Like, you don't have to. But the good part of it was he looked at the footage. He was like, boy, looks like I've lost about 50 pounds since we did that interview. So it worked out for everybody. He had gone on a diet, and he had lost some weight, and he felt like more comfortable in his own skin. And so maybe it was fate.
I think it always is fate, dude. Like the mistake, like what's Bob Ross? Happy Little Mistake. like just lean into that. Like that's
Happy
I
accident.
totally
Yeah.
believe in that philosophy. Like even if something like physically, like your issue is a technical issue, and everyone can objectively say like, yeah, like that's like the audio isn't good. Like this is unusable, but then it leads to a better thing. Like that's so real in the
It
whole
did.
process of
It did
making
lead
these
to a
things.
better thing at that point. Yeah.
That's all. That's so cool, dude. Now, when it came to the editing, when you're nervous, what's your process when with editing? Do you have a certain time in the day? Are you doing it every day at a certain time? Is it just on your free time? Is it just on the weekends? How are you approaching the editing? And what were like? Were there any like specific problems that you were trying to solve with the editing of it?
I don't know if there were problems that I was trying to solve. I very much enjoy the editing process. I mean, that's where the movie is made. Really, the great John Hughes, who was a prolific writer. I mean, he really was a writer before anything else. Wrote Ferris Bueller in like 4 days or something, which I can't even wrap my head around that.
Yeah, he wrote Breakfast Club in like a weekend.
Wrote the Breakfast Club in the weekend. Wrote Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in a week. I mean, yeah, and it's impossible, but he did it repeatedly with fantastic movies. He would do one draft and that was it. But he said in interviews, he was like, well, really, I direct, but I don't like doing it. I think the movie is made when you actually cut it together. That's where the movie is made. So to me, the editing is I think that's fun. I could do that for hours and hours and hours, and I sometimes will. I mean, because you just can kind of pick and choose things and try and figure out, well, does this cut work better here? There are always going to be problems. I think I probably force myself to forget those, and now that I look back, I'm like, oh, it was easy, it was perfect, wonderful. But I think there are always problems, and you have to try and think, okay, there's got to be a solution here. And in that case, when we were shooting A Night Out, there had to be a solution in the edit because we couldn't go back to the location. And that's why, again, it goes back to making sure that you're very prepared. I mean, so when we were shooting, I had a list on our script, and I believe that was one of the things that I was having you do is go and be like, okay, we got this one, and highlighting things off, and then going back and making sure, okay, we got this particular thing, because I knew we wouldn't have the location again. When I was going to cut the film, whatever we had in the can, that was what we had. So I think, when we were cutting, there was one part at the beginning where I didn't have a cutaway or something, which I always liked. You have to have coverage. You have to have good coverage. I was missing something, so I ended up having to cut like 3 lines of dialogue to get to where I had a cutaway that would work with what was there. And it ended up really helping the film. I thought it moved things faster. So sometimes those things, like you're saying, happy accidents. I think when you're cutting, you get to look at the film and see how it's progressing, and you can kind of feel it in your head. I don't have a specific time of day. I just like to sit down, and I'll start, and I like to do it often because if you get away from it, see, there are two sides of it. And this is why a lot of times a lot of people need an editor, especially if you have a deadline. You really need an editor to work with because you start looking at it so much that you become kind of numb to feelings on the screen. You don't really feel the laughs as much. You don't really know because you've seen it so many times. You become numb to it. So for me, when I'm a control freak, and I didn't have an editor working with me. My process is I cut on it. I get to a point where I feel like this is good, this works, and then I kind of leave it for about 2 weeks, and I just won't look at it because I mean, I didn't have a deadline, you know. I now, if I was working with a tight deadline, I would have to work with an editor who could be a sounding board. But I was kind of my own sounding board because I just would wait long enough to where I could look at it again, and it was like seeing it for the first time. You know, you haven't laughed at it for a while, so it's a new laugh. So that's kind of, I guess that is my process, is that I'll cut on it and get to a point where I feel like a certain scene works or whatever. And then I'll leave it and not look at it for a while, go back, see if I feel the same way, and then see what needs to change. And so then I'll just do that on each sequence. It's the movie, the first assembly, I guess, was probably about 15. I got it down to about 11, I think. So I cut there's not a lot. When you have a 90-minute movie, cutting 5 minutes might not be a whole lot, but when you have 15, cutting four or five it's a good amount, but it needed to speed up some. And so as I went through, I would keep different sequences. So I probably had it maybe 6 different sequences in the timeline. So I would cut each sequence as its own individual entity, if that makes sense, and then go from one to the next.
Does the sound effects or music affect the editing at all? Like, what was your process with getting the music and getting the certain sounds that you were really like visualizing?
Yeah, it does. It does. Now with the music, who, Cole, you recommended the great composer that we used,
Joey Favola.
Yeah, Joey did a great job with it, and you know, I mean, he makes it, the music makes it feel brisk, right? That's the idea. I mean, and if you don't have it, it's going to be slower. That's just the way it is. But with it, I had pretty much locked the cut when I turned it over to him to score. I'm pretty sure I had locked it. But I had a few temp music, you know, just placeholder music of kind of what you're feeling. And I realized after he gave me the first, his first blush of the music, that I probably should have given more guidance, I guess, because there were points where I just was like, I don't really know what this should feel like. I guess I might have known, but I just couldn't place it. And so there were parts of it when he first gave me the music, I was like, yep, that's right. And there were a couple parts where I was like, it's not where I'm thinking. And so then I went back after hearing what he had put down. Then I went back and I took some temp music, because then I could kind of hear it in my head, and then he kind of molded off of what I had done and put that in. Sound effects are for me, go, and in this instance at least, they went in a lot earlier, because I thought some of the laughs come from, you know, pills, you know, falling on the ground, or hitting a head on the floor. Those kinds of things are important, and you can't really feel a specific scene out unless you have it. There was one point in the movie when Ben's character is laying on the ground, and one of the girls kind of pulls his head up, and then his head falls on the ground, and they're talking this whole time. And I remember watching it, and I kept thinking, gosh, this is so slow. This doesn't work. And then I asked Ben, I said, can you record a couple of kind of grunts? Just go to your computer, just give me some grunts. And adding those little things in made the scene feel faster. Like I watch it now, and I don't feel like this is just too slow. I mean, it's hard to explain, but sometimes a tiny thing like that can really change the the feel and the flow of the scene.
Yeah, I felt the same way too. So when Joey did the music for my short film, that's when I realized the power of the musician. Really,
Sure.
It felt like whenever I watched a dry edit without any music of my thing, like I hated it. But as soon as I heard some music, I started to like feel the emotion. I started to feel, I could almost feel my vision of what I wanted to accomplish. Did that happen for you at all? Like, did it seem to come together for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the music definitely is very important. I mean, I know when John Carpenter put his first cut together of the movie Halloween, which is kind of this maverick, groundbreaking horror film. The producer said, "This isn't scary. I don't understand." And John Carpenter said, "Well, just wait till the music is there." John Carpenter composed his own music in that instance. He composed the music.
Yeah,
Iconic, isn't
dude,
it?
Yeah, that is iconic, bro.
And the producer said, "My bad. I get it now. It's terrifying. We can release this movie." So I mean, music, especially for genres, comedy and horror and science fiction, those things, is very important. I think it is for all things, really, but I think for those especially, it can be. And sometimes less can be more. It just depends on the piece, really. And I do think the music definitely helped it come together. I mean, it gives it kind of a bow so that it feels like a real thing.
So when did you
Production
finish
value,
it?
right?
When was this like completed, and when did you put it in the film festival?
Sometime in like late 2022, I guess. I'm a cheapskate by nature, so when I see these like call for entries, I'm only gonna do the one that's like early bird, the cheapest of cheap, because once it gets closer to the festival, they start charging you double, so I'm a cheapskate. So I entered some of these festivals I still have a couple. There's one that I entered in like, what are we in now, like June? I think I entered it in November, and when you asked me to get on a call, I was like, let me go look at the website again. I think it's like they will announce whether or not you've been selected in September. So I was 10 months out. So I mean, I started, or I kind of got to where I felt like it was a good cut, and put it in festivals sometime late 2022, and I put it in a couple festivals. Actually, earlier I put in a couple festivals, and it didn't get selected. And I kind of made a couple changes to things that I was like, I didn't really like that anyway. So I don't know if that had any difference. But since I made a couple changes, I'm 1 for 1. So I don't know.
What's the process with the festivals? They charge you money? I actually have zero experience with this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess some people would say it's a racket. I don't know. I mean, essentially, yes, you pay a fee. You have to put your film onto most short films nowadays. They have a website, filmfreeway.com, and that's like this website with thousands of festivals. The top ones, the Sundance and Con and all the big ones, and they're on there, and then all the way down to Jim Bob's Festival in Boise, Idaho. Like everything is on there, and you can choose to enter, and then it'll have a call for entries, and it gives you a date, and you have to enter the festival, and it'll say, okay, if your film is whatever type of film, short film, feature length, documentary, whatever, and then it'll have a price, the cost of entry, and then as it gets closer to the final submission date, the price goes up. So it's your benefit to enter early. So it'll be like $25, and then it'll be 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, whatever. So I mean, if you decide, hey, I'm going to enter 100 festivals, I mean, you're going to spend a lot of money. And I mean, I guess like if you do that and then you go to all the festivals, it would be a good networking opportunity. I met some nice people at the festival that I went to. I don't know. I mean, I entered a couple festivals that are like in different cities. I mean, if it's not close to where I am or in Los Angeles, I'm probably not going to go to the festival. You know, that becomes a huge expense, right? You're flying to some place you don't live, and then you're having to pay for a hotel. And really what you get is they'll give you tickets to the festival, but that's about it.
That's so wild. I didn't know you had to pay to put your movie up. That's super interesting. For some reason, I thought it was free,
Yeah.
but you know, of course they're using a
No.
venue. Of course, there's people working. Of course, they got
Yeah. So
Yeah, what they say, you know, that somebody's watching it, you're paying for somebody to watch it, then yeah, they have to have a venue. And I mean, they sell tickets, but I mean, you know, I mean, how many people are going to festivals week in and week out, you know, and just now, I mean, of course, if it's Sundance, I mean, yes, everybody flocks to Sundance. But if you're not one of those like top marquee, and even if you're one of those huge, very well-known festivals, some of the shorts still don't get a whole lot of people going to them, I'm sure. It just depends. But in this festival that I was in, I mean, there were a few that had a few shorts that had like name actors in them. So I clearly they spent some money on these these short films, and then they put them in the festival. So I mean, people put big money into making a short film that's only going to play in some festivals. And I guess it's just kind of like depending on how you're looking at it. Like, is this film supposed to be my calling card to future things? I mean, maybe. I mean, I guess it could be. But I think that it's a tool. The festival circuit can be a tool to just network with other folks.
Right. Yeah. I've always been confused about the festival stuff because I guess growing up when I was younger, before I moved out to LA, there was this sort of romance whenever I watched any behind the scenes or anything about the making of or any like individual story about, you know, you got Tarantino's Pulp Fiction when he's at Cannes, you got Paul Thomas Anderson, you know, you just have a bunch of different moments in history where filmmakers sort of debut at the festival, and it's about networking. It's about like it's totally a stepping stone. It's where you get the money deal. It's where you get distribution. It seems to also be like just an older structure too. Would you agree?
I mean, it is-
older as in a system that allows a person to get their viewpoint out there. It's a little old, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I understand what you're saying. You know, I guess conversely, in theory, now, I mean, what if you want to put your movie in a festival, if you have your movie on YouTube or one of those sites, you're not going to get in a festival. I mean, you have to keep them not seen to get into a festival.
Why is that?
And then well, because the festivals want to attract people to come to the festival and watch the films, and if all the movies that are on playing at this festival, any person can go watch on YouTube, then it's a guarantee that nobody's gonna pay to come to the festival. So a lot of times, like, and they will ask you, has this movie played X, Y, and Z? So like, probably this one, I don't remember for sure but I think it might have asked, has this movie played in Los Angeles? And the answer would be no. It's because they want to be the first one so that they know that all the movies playing are not something that some other festival goer might have seen down the street in Glendale or in Hollywood or whatever. So, there are a lot of rules and stipulations that, and I don't know. I mean, I would say if you are banking your whole life on I'm gonna see or I'm gonna play my movie in this festival, and all of a sudden I'm just gonna strike it big, I would say that probably isn't gonna happen. But some of the bigger festivals that's possible. I think it's just a stepping stone and a way to network. That would be how I would look at it. Because conversely, you could put your film on YouTube and you might get 2 or 3 days where you're in some algorithms or whatever. But then, think of all the stuff that's out there. There's just so much content. And how do you differentiate? How does anybody differentiate? It's good, I guess, in some ways that there is a very low barrier for entry. But then when there's a low barrier for entry, there's so much dreck that people just look at it and are like, well, I'd rather go watch Ghostbusters again than try and figure out which of these 30 movies that I can see on Amazon Prime are worth my time, because you just don't know.
Yeah, I think it comes down to to branding, to like the artist's communication to the audience, because I think Tarantino, one reason why Tarantino is so popular is because he talks like a normal guy talking about movies. He talks like a guy I feel like I could talk to, and he doesn't seem like, of course he has a giant ego, but like when he converses with people, when he talks to people about movies, it seems like he really just loves the process. And one reason why a person might see a Tarantino movie is because they know that Tarantino loves movies, and they know the story of him at the video store, and they know the entire arc of Pulp Fiction, and like it's almost like we're gonna see Tarantino's 10th movie, not because it's it's another movie and I liked his movies. No, we're seeing it because he's been verbal about his vision for his career, and we've all sort of bought into this brand of Tarantino retiring after his 10th film. And I'm just here waiting for his 10th film, and I'm ready to just honor the legend. And same reason for Scorsese. You might see Scorsese movie because of what he's done in the past. So I feel like that's why like Ghostbusters still works, because it worked at a certain time in a person's past, and there was a good story around it, that, as in like a good narrative around it. People love going back to the behind the scenes and of the old SNL days and Ghostbusters, and that's just that was just their own vibe. So that's my take on that, because I think Denis Villeneuve is an example of that as well. This guy, he does Blade Runner 2049, and it flops at the box office. No one sees it, but it's a beautiful movie, and it fits within the Blade Runner universe. The filmmaking goers, the people who love movies, they see it, and I feel like people do end up seeing the non-popular movie on streaming, but it's rare. It's got to be special. That's all in the story too. But I feel like it's a lot of
Tarantino has a brand. Scorsese has a brand. Disney has a brand. That's what it is about now. Is the brand gets somebody to the theater. I think that Tarantino has said there can't be another Tarantino at this point, because everybody wants to see Tarantino, not a different one. It's kind of like I was listening to something recently. They were talking about the studio would greenlight another Matrix, a sequel to the Matrix, but nowadays, would they greenlight the Matrix? Probably not. People probably wouldn't go to it. It's just like why was Joker a big hit a few years ago? Like, Joker is a movie that's not really a Batman Joker. It could stand alone, and people in the film community, I heard people complaining about, well, why not just make it its own thing? And it's because people aren't going to go see it. They're going to go see it if you put the name Joker on it, and it becomes a big hit because it's a good movie.
Yeah, that's a great example
Blade
of
Runner-
branding. Yeah, dude, you got it's on the poster. Joaquin Phoenix,
Yeah.
De Niro, Joker. Like those words are already enticing, and then the imagery of this smeared paint, and then your understanding of Joaquin's acting career, and I think it's all.
But you
relevant.
mentioned
Blade Runner 2049. People didn't go see Blade Runner 2049 because people didn't go see the first Blade Runner. I mean, the first Blade Runner was a flop. I mean, I love Blade Runner, but I think that there was probably an underestimation of the number of people who are film school nerds wanting to see a sequel to Blade Runner.
And that's sort of the brand,
Because-
isn't it? That's sort of the brand. This like dystopian, futuristic, but the thing never makes money, but it's amazing and beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's why we watch it.
Yeah,
and
there are
that's
too
why
many
we're
people who've
inspired.
never seen the first Blade Runner.
Since there's so many people who've never seen it, and they're like, well, I'm not going to go see the new one. I think that really, in some ways, you mentioned Ghostbusters. I probably mentioned it first, but the newest Ghostbuster, there were some people who didn't see it because they didn't see the previous Ghostbusters. So it's a weird thing of like you're trying to touch into the nostalgia to get people to go to the theater, but then you're inherently limiting yourself to people who are going to try and buy into the nostalgia. So you're segmenting your audience already. But if you don't segment the audience, then nobody's going to go because people are only going to go see things that they have an affinity for. It's a very weird thing. And I don't know what that means for movies. I mean, I just like watching a lot of movies, so I don't know, but I think I'm in the minority. I think a lot of people I'm going to go see the one that everybody does, like Top Gun. People go see it because everybody else is, and it becomes kind of this wave, and everybody's trying to recreate those waves. And I mean, I think Disney is doing a terrible job of it with some of these Lucasfilm properties, and they're just trying to create this nostalgia for something that maybe they don't themselves understand why people like it. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like they. Of course, this movie hasn't come out yet, but I don't have high hopes for the newest Indiana Jones movie. It doesn't seem like they understand why people like Indiana Jones based on the early reviews, which are unfavorable. So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of questions about movies and where they're headed, and I don't know if there are a lot of answers because there are not many directors working in the industry now who are doing their own thing, where they're writing their own script. I mean, there are a handful of them.
I mean,
Wes
but even
Anderson,
J.J. Abrams is
Buster.
doing Superman. Even Zack
Yeah.
Snyder is doing Batman versus Superman. It's super rare that, like, it is so rare. Like Zack Snyder, it might be one of the only people doing something original in this coming year on Netflix. Do you know about that?
No. I mean, I know. I mean, the ones I think of are Nolan and Tarantino and Wes Anderson. I mean, I'll go see all of their films.
Oh yeah, well, Wes
But I
Anderson
don't
for
know-
sure. Yeah.
I don't know Zack Snyder's new project.
Well, his thing is, it's for Netflix. He originally wrote it as a Star Wars movie, and he pitched it to Lucasfilm, but they never picked it up, and he's had it forever, like for 20 plus years. And Netflix finally, they like gave him permission to go for it, and he's creating. They want it to be a new franchise. They want it to be a new cinematic universe. So he's making this giant sci-fi space opera thing right now, and just one of the few originals that's like actually coming from him. It's not just a company wanting to do something unique and then they get a big director. It's from his perspective. Would you watch anything Zack Snyder makes? Did you watch his Justice League?
I think Zack Snyder is a very talented filmmaker. But I have not seen all of his films, no.
You got to check out the Justice League one, dude. Just do it for the director's cut, dude. Just do it for the story. Like, you were at Warner Brothers during the collusion, dude. Like, you got to just watch it, man.
I don't have 6 hours of my life, though, that I'm willing to devote.
You don't have half a shift to give to the TV?
Probably not. I'm still trying to catch up on other stuff, you know.
I feel you. Well, okay, so we got through the festivals. What are your thoughts on debuting the movie? Like, what are your thoughts on the audience's reaction? Are you satisfied with this creative process? Like, where are you at right now?
Am I satisfied with my creative process?
Yes.
No, I'm never satisfied. I mean, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but I mean, I can be pretty negative and pretty critical, because I always think there are things that can be done better. Now, that being said, I would never say that about any of the people that I work with. I mean, I would take the blame, because I think that, and I'm not saying that I think the film is bad. I would think that it could be improved, but I would say that any fault of the film would be my fault, not the actors or the other people in the process, because I think they all did a wonderful job and did exactly what I asked. So if there's any shortcomings, it would be mine. But I'm never. I mean, there are parts of it that I like to watch and I think are funny, so that's good. I mean, I do appreciate that, and I have things that I can watch on it and think it's funny. But I am gonna look at anything I do and think, well, you know, it'd be a little bit better if I could have done X, Y, or Z. I mean, that's how I would view any of the things I do. I'm always looking for how to improve and get better on it. So I don't know if that answers your question.
I mean, I was just curious, man, because everyone has their own process. Everyone has, you know, what they wanted to accomplish, or everyone just has, you know, has thoughts and just what they want to do with it. So I was just curious what you were going for with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to at some point let it just sit and let it be. This is the thing now. You know, this is what it is. Because even you look at George Lucas, I mean, he could continually cut because he had things that he'd look at and be like, oh, I could do that better. I could do that better. Because I think you always do. I mean, Steven Spielberg changed a part of E.T. because after he had kids, he said, I'd rather not have guns near kids, because when he made the movie, he didn't have kids, and then he did have kids, and he's like, it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. So he changed it. Then he realized at some point later, he said, you know, maybe even though I would do it differently now, the film was already in the zeitgeist. It was there. It was out in the world. That's how it should be, and I shouldn't mess with it. So I think you have to reach a point where you say, okay, I'm just going to leave it alone.
Oh, I forgot.
And
Spielberg.
knowing at that
Spielberg.
point-
Wait, what did he do again with E.T.? He deleted the guns, or
Yeah, there is a scene where the kids are riding their bikes, and I believe they're riding their bikes, and they're police officers or security guards. I mean, they're in the foreground of the shot, and they had guns, like they were holding guns, and he went in and digitally changed it so they weren't guns, they were flashlights.
lame.
Because he's like, I don't feel comfortable having guns near kids because now I have kids. And I mean, I can understand, like, your perspective changes when things in life happen. You know, he was after he did E.T., he made Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and then he was supposed to direct Peter Pan, not Hook. He was supposed to direct Peter Pan for Paramount Pictures.
Hang on, pause. He did
Pause.
Temple of Doom after E.T.
Uh-huh.
So he's comfortable.
Yeah.
He's uncomfortable with kids around guns, but he's totally chill with a kid in some demonic temple who's like about to watch a human sacrifice.
Well, maybe. I mean, like, he wasn't given the opportunity to re-edit Temple of Doom. So I mean, he might have wanted to change it. I don't know. I have no idea about that. I just know that what did happen.
Just remembering that movie.
Yeah.
is
No, I
so-
understand. Yeah. So he did. It was E.T., then Temple of Doom. Color Purple might have been 85, or it could have been 86. I'm not sure. So it was right in that era. So I think after he'd made Color Purple, he was given a script for Peter Pan to make a live action Peter Pan, and his oldest son was born, and he just decided, which would I rather do? See my son's first steps, or go to England for 18 months and shoot Peter Pan. So he didn't do it. And because he said, I just had a different perspective. So I can understand things in life happen and they change your perspective on things. But, once the project is out there, I think it should be at least available for somebody. So I would say, yes, I always have a long-winded way of saying that. I think that I might always want to change something, but you reach a point where you just say, this is what it is. This is how blemish, warts and all, but that's it. People seem to like it, so we're going to go with what's on the screen.
I have some rapid fire questions from the audience, from our good friend Ben Thompson. He wrote in some questions that have been burning on his mind.
Okay.
So, if you can,
Yes, no,
yes, no. Yes.
Yeah, just simple answers. Yes, no,
Okay.
or if as succinctly as possible, as Ben likes it.
Okay.
So it's a few things. The first thing, how many push-ups can you do? That's really what he asked.
100.
Yes, I believe
100.
it. I believe it. What was the first movie you remember seeing in theaters?
Two answers. Well, I could give you three answers. Which the question is first one. So how am I gonna?
What's the
say
first
that?
one, dude?
So I used to say that it was Jetsons the movie. I used to say that. But actually I went back, and the Peter Pan, Disney did a re-release of Peter Pan, and I remember seeing Peter Pan before my sister was born. But when I used to say Jetsons the movie, it was because Peter Pan was really made in like 1950 or whatever. So I knew I saw it in the theater, but I didn't know what year it was until I looked up at some point Disney's like re-release patterns, and I realized, that was before then. So Peter Pan would have been very early. I was very, very young. I don't really remember much about it other than like I can kind of remember the theater. And then the first live action movie I saw, so this was probably maybe more important to me, and I do love animation, but the first live action one I saw was The Rocketeer.
That's beautiful. I love that.
This is one of my favorite movies.
That's awesome. If aliens were to come down and ask, show us what a movie is, what would you show them?
The textbook answer would be Citizen Kane, right? I always go back to the same thing. I love Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It is my all-time favorite movie, and I would show them. I would show anybody that. I have shown that movie to so many people, and I've never, except my wife. My wife is the only person who didn't enjoy it. So, I think it's a phenomenal movie.
What's one movie you'd like to remake / what movie do you think you could make better?
I could never make a movie better, but if I was going to remake a movie, it would be The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't like remakes. I do not like remakes, but I would remake The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Dude, that'd be epic. The last one is, does Georgia Tech compete in Division 2 or Division 3?
Who submitted that question?
These are all from Ben Thompson.
Okay. Ben is a jokester, and I would say, when was the last time Gonzaga ever won anything important?
Is that a burn?
Yeah. No, I no, seriously, I do like Gonzaga. No, I really do. I like watching Gonzaga basketball. Drew Timme, man, that guy, he's got to be like 35. I don't know, but Georgia Tech competes in Division I athletics, and Yeah, and is thankfully we have cut the cord with the former head coach that we kept for way too long, who ran the program into the ground, and there are big things coming, Ben Thompson, and I think we're going to be pretty good this fall. So
I had one idea for the last section. I usually try to talk about innovation that I see personally in the world with movies or any innovation. What's your perspective on it? I'm not sure how much AI that you've been aware of. I'm not sure if you're in those algorithms, but what are you seeing in innovation? You're out in Georgia. What's on your mind? Do you have any thoughts about the future of your career or the future of your success in the next few years? Because, it is trying times, and within America, the economy's going down. I don't know how long they're going to keep propping up the economy by just printing money, So, I don't know how long things will be good for. But Andrew, do you see any innovation around you? Do you see inspiration for anything, business-wise or creative-wise? What's inspiring you right now?
You think about what Walt Disney did, and so many things. He was such a force. Just in feature-length animation, nobody had ever done it. It couldn't be done. It takes too much time, and so he did it. Building a theme park makes no sense. People won't go. It'll be too expensive. We can't do it. And he did. When people say you can't do something, that's because a lot of people don't want to try. So I think that there are plenty of opportunities of things that we don't know yet. And I think sometimes we have to think about, okay, what is a different way of getting your ideas out there? Is it using some other tool, or is it something totally different? Is it something that's from the past, or do we need to take some form that we've done before and reimagine it for now? I don't know, maybe. In the early days of cinema, a movie would be screened from film, and they would take that film print, and oftentimes an exhibitor, some person, would drive that print from town to town, and there would be one screen in the town, and they would say, hey, now Dr. X or whatever this 1950s movie, this movie is playing in our town, and so everybody would go. Maybe that's how you need to start trying to get your film out there. Go from town to town.
Now we can just it's instant movies everywhere. We can really just watch anything, and
that's true. But that's the problem, is that since there are so many things, people oftentimes just throw their hands up and say, well, I'm just gonna the first thing Netflix throws at me. So if you're trying to break through that, you have to think of something different. I'm not saying that you should drive town to town. I'm just saying that you probably need to find a way to get around Netflix, because do you have a chance as an innovator to do the same thing that everybody else is doing? No, you have to do something different. I don't necessarily know what it is. Somebody smarter than me can figure that out. But I think that there are people like that, and I think that there are going to be things that right now we don't even think about that will become innovations, because I think the human brain is clever and is going to continue to think of new ways of doing things. Especially when backed into a corner, because then you have to find something new.
Yeah, my whole take on AI has been, well, first of all, I've been experimenting with some things. I've experimented with the imaging stuff. One of them is called Midjourney. You're really just typing in some sentences, and then it comes out pretty pristine. There's other things where you can upload. Incredible. You can just copy and paste a YouTube link, and the AI will automatically edit it so that it fits in TikTok, and it just goes through the entire video, and it gives you 10 different options for a TikTok video that's properly cropped, and it gives you captions, and it has some sort of ranking system to tell you how how viral it is, which is silly, but like these things can take in data. I think it's just going to amplify like people. Like I am of the belief that if I were to choose to use the AIs as consciously as possible, to like as a tool, as a way to just get my individual voice out, I really believe they put me on the same level as Disney. Even though like Disney is Disney, like I can make my own Fantasia. I can really, there's another AI where you can record a video of yourself, and the AI takes that and creates motion capture data, and then you can plot that data onto any animated character. Which is, you know, that's copy paste Avatar, you know, that's like James Cameron. That's James Cameron times 10. Like it's like James Cameron is in your pocket, like almost.
Yeah.
And it's super young too. It's not perfect yet, but my whole thing, I think the individual will be able to make a lot more. And that's why I'm sort of thinking about brands, you know, like it's sort of like the names, the name of the creator is the brand. You know, I think that's where things are going.
Yeah, and I think then at that point, the more that the technology becomes something that's commonplace, you think about if you go back to, I don't know, the mid-90s, and Independence Day was this huge phenomenon of a movie. Why was it? Because there's one shot in the movie where the alien ship has this laser beam that comes down and blows up the White House. That moment in the trailer sold the movie. Why? Because nobody had ever seen that before. It was a great special effect. And a special effect could sell a film. Now, you literally can do anything. If you were to put that moment in a trailer, it's not going to sell anything. So what does sell it? It sells it on... You're getting back to, I think, the differentiation would be, you know, being able to tell a good story if we're talking about film. So I think being able to tell a good story will separate the good works from everything else, because everybody is capable of doing everything. But, you know, and you can give AI certain things, and that's why I think it can be a good tool. It might can help you out of a corner, but I think... like you're saying, the creator has the opportunity to get their ideas out there, and it's just important for them to have a well-structured idea and an original idea. And I think that the cream is going to come to the top, and so then the thing that becomes the important thing is the story. And I think that's important. I think that's good.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, that's all I got, man. Thanks for coming on. Thank you for talking with me. I've had a really nice 2 hours.
Well, I hope I correctly answered all the questions and I get a gold star.
Dude, you get 5 gold stars, dude. You get 5 out of 5, bro.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Oh, last thing. Did you get your Oppenheimer tickets yet?
They
just went on sale today, June 1st. They just went on sale today.
Yeah, I got to go see it in 70 millimeter, you know.
Yeah, dude, I got my tickets. Shannon and I are seeing an IMAX 70 millimeter at the City Walk. So if you're coming out to LA, dude.
City Walk. It's only playing at like 10 theaters or something, I think, in IMAX 70 millimeter.
25. There's only 25 IMAX theaters that are capable of doing the film.
There you go. That would be the way to see it. That's for sure. I hope to get to an IMAX to see it. I will be seeing it somewhere, but I hope to get to see it in 70 millimeter.
Andrew, thank you so much for being here, man. I wish you all the best with your creative career, with your directing journey, with your editing journey, dude. I think there's a lot of things coming your way. I really believe that. Well, so when 2020 happened, I really believed that everything that we were doing was going to lead to something better. Like, you have a seed of something beautiful, like you really do. You have a seed of a vibe that you can lean into, man. Like, I totally believe in you, Andrew. Like, you are so powerful. You're creative. You're funny. Like, you have the eye for the frame. You know what you want. Like, you have this, man. Like, I totally believe in you, dude. And I'm inspired by you. That's why I wanted you to be on here as well, because when it comes to seeking innovation, when it comes to like trying to make our systems better, or just trying to make better art, trying to make yourself better, like, you're one of those guys. Absolutely. You're absolutely one of those guys, man. So I applaud you, sir.
Well, you're making me blush.
Good. You should be blushing. You're
gonna
awesome,
blush.
dude. Andrew, do you have anything else to add?
No, man, I'm fresh out. Until you got more questions for me and want me to come back for part 2, then
Oh, man. Yeah,
I'll be back.
I think for part 2, I would like to have you and Ben on at the same time, and I feel like there's more for the 3 of us to do as well. There's got to be more, because 60-second talk show went so smoothly and so fun. Like, there's no way we're gonna just not do anything again. So there's something out there for the 3 of us. I see that for sure.
Okay, so good. I'm there.
Hell yeah, man.
Very good.
All right, well, let me just sign off. Andrew, thank you. You have a lovely day, and I'll talk to you later, bro.
All right. Take care. Good to talk to you.
That's America Plus, bitch. Stay free.